Here we go, buddy.
Let's do it.
Episode 3. Jordan Skelton tells Skel with Daniel Jackson.
Yes, sir.
A fist bump, a shake, or a chicken wing. Let's just go with a chicken wing.
With the chicken wing.
So, DJ, we'll start with this. Where do you come from? Where's your background? Bit about you.
A little bit about me. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I grew up in a small city or town called South Haven, Michigan, which is in the southwest part of Michigan, right off of Lake Michigan. So that's a little bit about me. I went to college at Coker University, amongst a few other colleges that I kind of transferred in and out of throughout the years, and 7 years after that, I'm here now.
So you brought up in Pittsburgh, you said there?
I was born there.
Born in Pittsburgh?
Born in Pittsburgh. 3 months later, my family moved to South Haven, where I grew up.
South Haven?
Yeah.
All right, so, and is that, is South Haven big city, small town?
Really small town. It's kind of, we call it like a resort town. Actually, a lot of people from Chicago during the summer will come over and have like their resort houses and like summer houses and stuff there. So the summers are pretty exciting in South Haven.
Nice.
During the year, it's probably about 30,000.
Solid stuff. So not too crazy.
Nothing too crazy.
Just enough to get into trouble a little bit.
Exactly, just a little bit. We had our fun.
Yeah. So I mean, you talk about your upbringing a little bit there, DG. I mean, we were talking before we started recording about, you've played soccer through the I would say the progression in America, especially where soccer was kind of like on the back burner. You had American football, basketball, baseball. I mean, the list goes on and on in America. Right. But you've kind of you've been through the progression of football or soccer, should I say. So what's some things that you've, good or bad, you've seen kind of come through that?
I mean, looking at where we are now, I think one thing that we've done well as a U.S. Soccer Federation, we call it, is just the outreach of the game. You see it a lot more on television now, opposed to when I was younger. There was, I think every Sunday there was a game on NBC Sports, but other than that, like that's as much as I saw of soccer, at least, unless I actually went to a game, which we had local PDL teams and stuff like that around them, but we really didn't see top level soccer at least from where I'm from. So I definitely think one good thing is that just the outreach of the game has been so much more. It's been so
accessible.
Well. Exactly.
Yeah, you can
Very
actually
accessible.
Watch English football, German football. I know the German league seems to be a big link in America, right? You guys have got a lot of up and coming.
Yeah, a lot of guys through the U.S. Academy tend to find German teams more than any other teams, which is, I mean, when you look at it, Germany has, I feel like they're one of the top leagues in the world actually for promoting young talent,
developing players.
So it only makes sense that our best young players will go through that
getting
system.
a part of it.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Correct.
And I mean, speaking on an individual note, you've obviously been probably the guy that, however many years ago it was, if you're playing soccer, it's like, hang on, you're doing what?
Yeah, it was kind of like especially for me, being an African American male,
right?
It's not definitely one of the first things that you look at me and be like, oh yeah, he plays soccer.
Soccer guy.
It's definitely not one of the first things even to this day when I tell people I play soccer, they're like, what? You do what?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I do. Like,
yeah, I mean that must be quite, to deal with that as an individual, to kind of to carry around that. Oh wait, you play soccer? And you're like, yeah, I play soccer.
I think that's also a way to kind of just get people's knowledge up of the game too, because like, hey, well, this guy, he's an African American guy and he's playing soccer professionally. Maybe I should get into that more. It definitely intrigues people more, especially when they don't think that you do it.
Like they all, again, it comes down to being accessible again a bit, doesn't it?
It does.
The guys seeing you do it makes it real for them to do it.
Exactly.
That must be something that you kind of take pride in, I'd imagine,
for
right?
sure. Like I said, I kind of enjoy the interactions that I get when people are like, you play soccer? I'm like, yeah. And then they'll ask a bit more. They'll be like, oh, I didn't really understand the offside rule, which is like the number
Right,
one
that's
question.
the most
and so
common.
you go into that. So you go into that scenario, and you're like, okay, yeah.
How do you try explaining that, by the way?
Listen. That's a great question, and I think a good one is I use NHL for example. So you know their offside line, that no player can go across that until the ball's across.
NHL being hockey
Yeah,
anyone that's
hockey. Yeah. So yeah, I use that rule and use the so use the line as the last defender. You can't as a player you can't cross that line until the ball's played type thing.
That's a good way to explain it.
Yeah, so that's my favorite explanation of it.
Yeah, because I think, you touched on it a little bit there. I think that, a big part of the lack of, I guess, attention to soccer, or to be fair, it is very much on the rise right now. We have to say that. But one of the things that I think has kind of kept it in a bit of the back burner is the lack of knowledge, the lack of, like simple concepts like the offside rule, where people just don't quite understand the game, and they haven't had the opportunity to be exposed to the game. Correct. So whenever like where we are right now, I mean, obviously I haven't spoken this, but you're a teammate of mine here in Tormenta. We're in a Georgia town where, again,
small town, yeah.
It's a small town. Soccer's kind of like a bit of an alien, kind of what's this all about?
Right.
But having it exposed to people, hopefully that's going to keep on slowly and surely, people checking in. And I know one thing, I was joking with one of my roommates, the fact that the only sport being played, well, apart from UFC, Bundesliga right now, the German league's up and running. It's the only one that's up in regards to sports. Everyone's watching it.
Exactly. And again, like you said, it's pretty cool that people are getting more of a chance to kind of see that, you know what I mean? And like, oh, okay, like I can get involved in the soccer now. Like,
absolutely.
Right.
So, I mean, to dive into a bit more about you, DJ, you've obviously played pro for how many years now?
This would and will be my 7th year.
Well, yeah, because obviously right now is a bit of a question mark for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of.
So 7 years in the pros?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, where'd that start off for you? Where was the first pro contract?
My first pro contract was North Carolina FC, which technically back then they were the Carolina Rollhawks. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, back in the NASL days when there was the NASL and USL still, just on the same platform or second tier of soccer.
Right.
Here, so.
So that was North Carolina.
Yes.
So how long did you play there for?
So I was there for a year.
Okay.
And then the next year I went to Charlotte. Charlotte Independence was actually their first year in existence. They had the Charlotte Eagles there, but they bumped down to PDL.
That's right.
And there was a new ownership group that decided to get a team out in Charlotte that are USL. So that was the first year of it. So 2015 Charlotte Independence.
So to go back to those kind of rookie years, let's say, what's something that you kind of learned through? I mean, because you've played obviously as a pro for 7 years. You've been on multiple teams. You've been that new guy a lot. In that new guy role, that new guy position, before you've earned the respect of the guys, that fresh face in the locker room, it can be difficult. So, I mean, you not only, doing it multiple times and playing for multiple teams, but what's some things you've kind of learned through the experience of going through that and being the new guy multiple times?
Yeah, so great question. I think mainly for me, and I talked to my family too, because it was obviously a nerve-wracking thing, like doing something you love to do for a living is such a blessing in itself, but just that you're living your dream, this is your first day type thing, especially for me, my first year. What my family always told me was just to be a sponge, kind of just just take in everything that you can from especially the older guys and guys who have been there multiple years. Just take in everything and just enjoy it. So
enjoy it's massive.
So those were two things that for me were kind of at the forefront of my mind as I stepped into that, or my first days. So you call it, it's just this is something you get to do that you love, and just step into it and enjoy it and just take everything in as you can.
I think that is so important, crucial, whatever the word would be, DJ, that you mentioned there about enjoying it.
Yeah, such a huge aspect, because I think I've been guilty of it too, where you're just going through the motions and you're not really taking in everything that you're doing at that moment. Like, hey, this is something I dreamt of, I'm in it, enjoy it. You know what I mean? And
seriously.
it's again, it's hard to kind of get into that because you're so caught up in like the competitiveness of it. It's like, am I gonna get on the team this week? Am I gonna start? Just all these other things going out that are involved with your dream, but it's just like you get caught up in
the outcomes
of it rather than just enjoying the process through it. Because I know people say this all the time, and embrace the process, trust the process, but it's easier said than done, but like it's such a vital, important part of like what we do. I feel because it's just when it's gone, it's something that we're technically in entertainment, but like we're not singers or anything. Something you can do for how many ever years. Like we have a window to do this, and to take it in and enjoy it is I think the most important things for me.
That's something that I've come to realize is very important for me in my career, sport journey, whatever you want to say, is that you said don't let the days go by. Don't just kind of float through the days. Actually make the most of, I want to get better. Right. When you mentioned there about how your family said, go to the older guys, take the lessons from them, see what they've done and been through so you can be ready for that when you hit there. Right. I mean, this is, again, like I said to you, this is what we're doing this for. Yeah. It's because you're a guy that you're someone that's been through so much, in that if this conversation wasn't happening, we wouldn't know about it. Yeah. In Daniel Jackson's story, 6 billion people in the world, no one is going to live Daniel Jackson's story like you are, through your life, through your perspective. So to tune into that and get the little things that you figured out along the way are huge, because like you said, when you walk into a locker room, you have like I want to make the team, I want to do well, I want to be successful. You have all these outcome bases, but at the same time, you walk into a locker room, there's going to be some big characters. There's generally guys who've been there for a while. You have the pressures of being that new guy and showing that you're enough. Because I think that's one of the big things, right? Is proving
yourself. Yeah.
I earn, earn the respect, right? So when you go into that locker room in that day one, the guys are like, oh, there's the new boy. Yeah, I hear he's such and such and such. There's always those, isn't there? Yeah, I hear he's this, I hear he's that. So how do you deal with day one? What's something that you go in there being like, you know what? I'm going to make sure the guys know. Like, what's unique about Daniel Jackson?
Well, for me, I think I've always, through all those experiences that you were just explaining, I think I've found a way to be able to relate to people, to different type of peoples on a basic level. And so what my thing is, or what I usually do, is if I go into a locker room that I don't know, I'll try to connect with at least one person and get that connection going, and that kind of multiplies from there. But just making that first connection with somebody off of it could just be over something small. Hey, I saw you played in this conference. I played in a college in that conference
relate
too,
to each other,
and just kind of relate to each other, and then things will grow from there. So that's just one thing I do when I go into locker rooms. I think I'm very good at reading people as well.
So like a human relationship,
right?
Like putting the player second, just
exactly.
making for like relationships with guys before you even put the the football perspective on it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's another thing that's super important, DJ, is a lot of people kind of, and I have to say I've done it before in my life, that the football kind of give the person the value. And I think if you get stuck in that, it can be a big burden to carry.
It's definitely
so where like, if you don't have a good practice, the full day's a bad day. If you don't get picked on the team, I've got to walk around the locker room with my head down. I haven't earned the right to.
Exactly.
And that can be a difficult thing to handle.
I definitely I went through that. My first year, it was just kind of just every time the coach would get on me for a bat touch or a crap training session or anything like that, I would just go home and I would just sulk and be like, yo, I gotta do better. I would just beat myself up about it, and I just learned that you can't live like that. Everything that stays on the field is on the field, and once it comes off, once you're off the pitch, there's more things and better things to think about than just what happened, what your mistake was yesterday at 10 a.m. You know what I mean? So it's just finding that balance in your head between trying to keep your life separate from the football life.
Seriously,
which is very important, and it was one thing that it took me a while to learn, but I definitely learned it.
Well, that's again, that's something that I think I've got to hold my hands up and say, I'm still learning that. you know, we've had conversations, DG, you know, about how, like you mentioned there a little bit, kind of leaving stuff at the pitch. You know, like once you leave the pitch and the white lines and, you know, you're done with the day there, almost leave it there. Right. And don't carry that baggage for the rest of your day, because I was the guy where if we didn't win in a football match, you know, don't talk to me. Right. I need to be left alone for a little bit. You know, if I've had a bad training session, what's the matter, Skel? Oh, I had a bad session today. And
I think that's a good point too, because of course it's okay to be competitive and be like, hey, be upset about you not performing to the best of your abilities. Of course, everybody's had those days, but it's just finding that switch to like, all right, that's enough. I'm gonna, you know, worry about something else. Like I'm done worrying about it. There's nothing I can do about it now.
Bring something else to the focus, right?
Yeah, bring somebody else to the focus, and I'll worry about that tomorrow when I step on the lines. You know what I mean? Then I'll fix it. You know what I mean? But there's nothing I can do now, so why worry about it?
Well, you mentioned there a little bit about how, you know, I'll worry about it, or I'll take care of it when I get back to the field, and that brings me to a thing of like, you know, what's your why in soccer? So why is it that 7 years of playing, you're still playing today? You know, you're still striving to achieve your goals and your dreams. What's the why for DJ?
The why is pretty simple for me. Is I love the game, and I told myself, like, before I even started, like, once I stop loving the game, that's the day that that's the day I'll be done. But if I'm still able to put on my cleats every day, 30 years old, run with the young kids, that's and right. You know what I mean? So I will continue to still do that because I love the game that much. So that for me is a huge why. Obviously, my mother would be a second one. She has given up a lot of things in her life, had a lot of sacrifices on her plate, opportunities that she could have gotten, but she was like, I have to drive my son to soccer practice because this is what he loves to do.
That's awesome.
So that's another reason that I do what I do, is because of her, the sacrifice she made. Like, who am I that I don't take this as far as I, you know, have dreamt? What was the point of her sacrifices? You know what I mean?
Right.
If I was going to do that. So that's a huge thing for me that keeps me going every day until I can't strap them up anymore.
I mean, that's just hit me in a way. You know, just us having this conversation now, that's just kind of hit me in a way, like, wow, I felt that from you. You know, I felt that real kind of, you know, you saying my mum's put everything in for me to be successful.
Right.
So it's only, I have to. Because if I don't, what was her struggle for?
Exactly.
And you mentioned there about your passion, you know, about how I'm going to do it until either I can't anymore or that the smile's not on my face anymore. Right. And I think, you know, that's again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, just the joy and the love of it. And your why, you saying there is the passion for it in your family. And those two things can take you to places that you didn't even know you were capable of. Because it's almost like, you know, the passion for it is, obviously someone put you in the sport, but that comes from something deeper.
Right. Like
you saying, well, why don't I love basketball? Well, I don't know. Why is it I've got this thing inside of me that makes me obsessed with this? You know, so that's something out there. And at the same time, your mum is for someone else, so you're almost fighting for something else. So those days when it's like, gosh, it's freezing outside, there's not a soccer ball, we're just doing sprints, but then you say, no, hang on. This could be an easy opportunity for me to just stray and not enjoy it, but you know what, it's for the bigger picture of things. So I mean, that leads me to another question, DJ, about you've been playing all over. I mean, you've played in Finland. Yeah. You've played all across America. Yeah. I mean, let's jump into Finland a little bit there, because what was that experience like?
It was absolutely amazing, honestly. I went to Finland the summer. Actually, in 2018, so I played in Tasmania for my first 5 months.
Wow.
And which is the southern island underneath Australia. So yeah, I was there for 5 months, and then I transferred over. Actually, I took the flight from Australia to Finland on my birthday. So happy birthday!
Wow, happy birthday!
Happy birthday! You're going to Finland. So yeah, I was
exactly
there.
The party spot.
Exactly right. No, but we had our fun actually the next few days after that, because I had a really good friend that I got in contact with, my friend Tyler David. He played with me in St. Louis the year before, and I had just me and the team that I was with in Australia, we mutually parted ways, and I'm just looking for a team, just kind of, you know, biding my time, and my friend was like, hey, like, I've sent a few videos to our coach, and he likes you. He wants you to come in and trial.
Awesome.
I was like, okay, perfect. I'm on my way. So I take a flight. My first day, just get settled in and stuff, and second and third day were trainings, and they signed me after my third day. So that was
wow. So that kind of come around from a friend knowing that you didn't really have another option.
Didn't have any options at the moment, and he was like, I'll just look around and see what's going on. And he talked to his coach, and his coach said, yeah, bring him in. So I think that
you went in there and you earned
huge
it.
one. Yeah.
So I mean, again, so that's a whole different other mindset of, we talked a little bit about being the new guy, but I feel like we framed that in the sense of already being in it,
right?
Already being signed, already being a part of it. That trialist mindset is a whole different other ball game.
Yeah.
So you're going into Finland where it's a place that, I mean, I can't even touch the culture. I have no idea what the culture is like in Finland, but it's very, very different from where you have come from.
Right.
But you've went in there with a goal, with a mindset of get signed, and you executed that. So how do you go around kind of setting those goals? What strives to...
What for me, especially like on a first day of practice or something like that, my thing is just to keep it simple. Do what you do best at. Obviously, we play together, so one of my physical ability is one of my, strengths. I think that I have my pace, and that's something that that I use, to showcase myself, over other people. So that's one thing that I do to try to set my goals. But I'm very realistic when it comes to football as well. So what I know is that I know myself and the type of player that I am. So depending on the team that I'm on, and be like, all right, so this game, I want at least 2 goals. You know what I mean? I know in myself that I can score 2 goals. So this game is going to be 2 goals. And it's kind of one of those things that if you kind of visualize it in your head and you say it, it's more able to happen. You know what I mean? So there's not that mental aspect of it. You know what I mean?
So do you often kind of do that when you're setting your goals, the visualize?
Yeah, the visualization of it is key for me, at least.
So let's dive into that a little bit, because that's something where, I think a lot of people talk about that. Like I know the Kobe, the Mamba mindset. His just level of strength of a mindset is a joke, and he talks a lot about putting in reps beforehand to when he's in the situations. It's like clockwork.
It's clockwork. Yeah, you don't think about it. It's like, hey, I've been here before. Just do it. It's emotion. It's not something you think about. It's just kind of like a natural consciousness of like knowing yourself, and you just execute it. So
let's put it into like a physical or like an actual moment. Let's say you've got a game Wednesday. It's Saturday today, right? You've got a game Wednesday midweek. When are you going to start this visualizing? When are you going to start thinking about setting goals? When are you going to go around doing that?
I think the goals honestly start on the Monday, leading up to the game. I mean, you have to visualize. A lot of coaches also do, training sessions to have their players visualize themselves in those moments in the game that is going to make them the most successful, in that game. So, for example, you playing balls over diagonal balls to me, if I'm playing on the right wing continuously that week, because we know that the defense is going to be pushed high and that's
something we're going to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's just a simple example of that, being able to visualize it and repetitively hitting that ball, because I know DJ is going to make that run when I turn and get the ball from the left back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just simple things like that that'll get the brains going, and so that that action will be just.
So you said like clockwork.
Clockwork when you're on the field.
Right. So I mean, we talked about a little bit, DJ, about you playing in Finland, Tasmania. I mean, what was something you learned playing there? Tasmania.
Tasmania was amazing. I remember even my agent like calling me up. He's like,
I was gonna say that must be crazy.
I was like, where? I like had no idea where it was, but. Honestly, it's probably one of the most beautiful places I've ever been.
You said it's just below Australia?
Yes, it's the island underneath Australia. Right. Absolutely beautiful place. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to visit or kind of do the touristy thing around that. I would have been able to because of just football.
Right.
But the time that I did get to spend, it was a beautiful place.
Because that leads me to talking about, we've mentioned it in previous podcasts about the things that sport brings you, in the sense of, life and lessons, and building characters, and being able to handle, like, difficult times. But at the same time, I mean, who would have thought, you born in Pittsburgh, you're moving into a little town, can say however many years later, I played football in Finland, I played football in Tasmania.
Right.
Like, could you imagine if a guy if a guy come up to you when you were 15, 14 years old and said, you're going to be playing football in Tasmania one day?
Like, shut up.
You'd be thinking, who's that? The guy from Looney Tunes?
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was absolutely amazing, kind of, to carry on to what you were saying. It's just, my mom had this conversation to me too, actually, before I'm even flying out to Tasmania. She's like, who would have thought that you'd be doing this? Like, I was like, I don't know. Nobody at all. Like,
nobody.
I had no idea I would be doing this, and it was just it kind of hit me also because it was my first time actually living somewhere outside of the U.S. as well.
Wow.
And it was just kind of like, and on top of that, I'm gonna be a day ahead of you. Like, just the difference of that, that in itself was absolutely incredible. But on the other fact that I'm about to go play overseas somewhere. You know what I mean? It was that was also like kind of a dream of mine too once I started playing, because I was just thinking about getting into soccer in America. I wasn't thinking about ever playing overseas. That was never a thought in my head at all. So like, it was a crazy realization. Like, I'm about to go over and play in Australia. This is crazy. You know what I mean?
Wow. I mean, I can't even imagine what that must have been like, that phone call.
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously I've moved obviously from England to America. And obviously that's huge. It's a huge, big step. And you mentioned there being a day. You said you were a day ahead of your family in America.
Yeah, it's essentially they're 16 hours ahead of us right now.
Wow. So I imagine your mum was still finding a way to get in touch.
Exactly. That was tough. Yeah, it was tough, but I got it done. So.
Of course. So I mean, that leads me to a question, DJ, about, you're 30 years old.
Yes, sir.
7 years of being a professional soccer player. Hopefully more to come. So what does DJ see happening after football? How? Because I mean, that's something that you hear in media and you hear in stories about, guys playing football and that love being taken away purely because of age. In that being a really difficult place to be.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of prepare yourself to not go through? I mean, I think it's not fair to say it's not going to be easy. Right. I think that would be inhumane to say it. But how are you preparing yourself to make a smooth transition?
Right. So for me, obviously, you said I played for 7 years, and I've made a lot of contacts over the years. So I know for a fact right now, regardless if my love for the game will be gone at that moment, I don't think I would want to leave the game just yet. So definitely plan on using the contacts that I have, and I would love to be somewhere in the coaching region.
Okay.
Once I finish, obviously I need to go to the do the online coaching course,
get your badges and all that stuff,
and stuff like that. But that's definitely something I would be wanting to do right after.
Awesome.
I also did go to school for computer engineering, so probably something in the IT field maybe later on in my career. But other than that, I know for a fact I want to stay close to the game, because I feel it's kind of a disservice to my career if I were to just like not use those contacts for good, something that'll be beneficial and helping the next generation in some aspect. You know
I know exactly what you mean. That's really awesome, DJ. I mean, you mentioned there, you said computer science.
Yes.
So that's obviously a whole different other ballpark, and we could have another full other conversation podcast about that. But what made you get into that a little bit?
I'm a very analytical person, and I love numbers. So it was very easy for me to get into. And technology, I thought for me, it's the future. Always going to be the future. It's always going to be relevant. So I feel a career pathway in that.
Nice.
In that area would be always something I can get into.
Seriously. So I mean, stretching over that horizon of what's to come next, like you said, hopefully go into coaching. Maybe hopefully one day put that degree into use. Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
So let's go. I like to do this with my guests as well. Go backwards.
Okay.
So let's say you are just finishing college. Let's say you're at that opportunity where the big bad world's waiting to take you up. What would you tell yourself before you've been through everything that you've been through, what was something that you would like to hear back then?
It's a great question. I think for me, some things that I had struggled with throughout my early stages of my career is to stay confident in yourself. I've went through a few stretches in my personal career when I was younger that I didn't have any. I knew there was a reason I was there, but I didn't know what that reason was, and so I kind of doubted myself, if that made sense. There would be some decisions that I made or the coaches would make that would kind of be like, well, I guess I'm not as good as I thought I was, or thought I wasn't doing what I thought I was doing on the pitch in practice, and kind of a lot of self-doubt I felt like pushed me back farther than I needed to be at the time, or that I could have been at the time. So that's definitely one thing for sure that I would tell myself if I knew what I knew now. Going back into
just stay confident in yourself.
Right, just staying confident.
Just go through the process, go through the and this is what I mean, what I love doing this is because we look back and we think, oh, I wish I knew what I wish I knew then.
Yeah, exactly.
What I know now.
Right.
But at the same time, you wouldn't have been the person you are today.
Exactly. It takes away from the process. So everything again, like I was saying earlier, everything happens for a reason. The things that happen make you into the person you are. So if I need to be more confident, I have to go through these things so that I build that and I trust it more and I rely on it more because I've been through it.
You've been through it. You've had the scars.
Exactly.
You've learned the lessons.
Exactly. So I think, again, we go back to trusting the process, but it really is. It's back to that point of the process is what creates the outcome. So
yeah, it's cliche, but
it's so cliche.
They're cliche for a reason, right?
Like such a goober saying it, just saying that, but it's true.
No, they're there for a reason. And I mean, to kind of bring things to a close, buddy. If there's obviously you said this, staying confident in yourself. How would you tell a young player coming up now that's in that position? How would you tell them to gain that confidence? How would you tell them to do it, to execute? Stay because it's easy to say, stay confident in yourself. Don't doubt yourself. But how do you go around actually doing that?
That's a great question, and I think one thing that you can do is to be honest with yourself, but continue to work hard and enjoy it. And go back to enjoying it, because once you know you're enjoying it, then you're confident. When you're enjoying something, you're not second guessing that enjoyment. You're confident in that enjoyment because you're in it. You're in it, exactly. Yeah. So that's one thing that I would say to a younger kid.
Just be present
and be present. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a huge one.
Keep a smile on your face.
Exactly.
Keep your feet where you are. Again, cliches upon cliches upon cliches.
Man.
So I mean, to kind of again, DJ, bring it to an end. If there's a book or a podcast or a series or something that's hit DJ's life that's made you better, what would that be?
Going for another cliche one. Okay. The Bible, man.
Okay.
The Bible. It's a huge one for me. I'm a Christian, and there's obviously multiple life lessons in that book that if you were to pick it up and read it,
more than a few.
It could relate to anything in your life. So that's my most inspirational book, something you should read.
So how's that kind of affected everything? Your faith?
My faith?
Yeah, how's that
It's been a huge thing of everything. My mother grew me up in the church, raised me in the church. My grandfather's a minister. And so that's just one backbone piece of me that I try to keep in the forefront. That I think that makes me and helps me continue to be successful today.
Because that can kind of take a lot of the pressures away from that, like you said, that outcome.
Right.
The things that we don't control.
Exactly.
Taking that pressure of, I don't control them.
Right.
I know who does.
Who knows? Exactly.
All I'm going to do is keep myself working hard, as you said.
Exactly. Keeping
a smile on my face. And I read a really cool cliche kind of thing the other day when it said, faith is not knowing what the future holds, but who holds the future.
Holds it. Exactly.
So that kind of, again, it's that.
Yeah, just the relief of the pressures off of the anxiety of trying to figure out or control the situation when you're not in control, when essentially you're not in control at all.
It's not easy. It's not easy to kind of let go of them reins when you don't really know how to be in control of them.
Exactly.
Well, listen, DJ, man, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Me too, man.
And I've said this last week. I have absolutely no idea how long we've been sitting here. I don't know what day it is. I don't know how long we've been doing it.
Yeah.
But I have a funny feeling
amazing.
that we should probably bring it out, because if we don't,
we'll be here for another.
we'll be
12
here
hours.
for another few hours. So I'll give you another chicken
No
wing, brother.
All right, my man.
And
Thanks for having me.